the future of the evaluations that you're doing. At the moment, there's a big building boom. There's lots of residential buildings that are being done, and there's lots of parameters that they're going to. When is the timeline for the futures of the RIBA sustainability work that you're doing?
Okay, so could I ask where you're from as well?
I'm a private consultant.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the question was the timeline of when all this is going to be published. So if I can maybe sort of, well, pass it on to. So we'll come back to kind of the questions, but I think, Alex, do you want to say something on that?
Hi there, I'm Alex Tate from the RIBA. Our aim is to publish a new plan of work guide. We're not changing the stages, it's the same 8 stages. And we, Craig put up on the screen about where we'd got to. The plan is that we now start testing that with other professional bodies and across the industry with an aim to publish something in autumn. So probably about October time. That's our current work.
Okay. Any the panel? Do you want to add anything to that in terms of the process you're going through just now?
Only that, as Alex said, from now until autumn, we're looking for feedback, and there will be some way that this will go to public consultation at some point over the summer. So look out for that, and do give us feedback on this, because we want input on this to make sure we get it right.
Okay, and then Ashley, in terms of how this links to your work in terms of CIBSE and ACA.
Well, so CIBSE also has performance criteria, the Chartered Institution of Building Service Engineers. They evaluate performance in buildings. But wouldn't it be great if we could employ all these principles now? You know, so we got the guidance coming later this year. And we are starting to see more clients willing to now, before it's in the guidance, have a discussion about post-occupancy evaluation. So hopefully this will have an impact to through its publicity, get more awareness amongst clients. And where we're doing BREEAM assessments, for example, there's criteria there for doing post-occupancy evaluation. So you know, there are areas in the industry where some of this is happening, but hopefully this will transform it when it becomes official guidance.
So just picking up on that, maybe I invite Alan to say a couple of words from the BRE's perspective. Sorry about that, I'm going to put you on the spot there. So if you pass the mic up to the gentleman there. We've actually been having the consultation for a while, and BRE are one of our members that we've been consulting with. Alan.
Yes, thank you. Stand up. So yeah, we've sort of, from a BREEAM point of view, we're on a path, I suppose, in a similar way, in terms of taking some of these issues on board and around performance gap, around post-occupancy evaluation, and so on. And I think from our point of view, we very much want to engage with these sorts of initiatives. It's important that we have a common message that we pass out, you know, across the board, so that you all know what you're working to. We're all providing different means of working to the same thing. So from our point of view, very keen to engage with this process. As you say, we have been trying to do that, you know, in an agnostic way. So obviously we have our own standards, and you know, we would obviously want to encourage people to use those. But no, there are other alternatives. So it's really just about making sure that there is a common sort of strategy, common approach that means that, you know, there's a clear message to all of you. So yeah, very keen to be involved.
Thanks very much, Alan. Of the audience that put their hands up, we've done post-occupancy evaluation. Could I invite somebody from that to share maybe some of their experiences in terms of positive experiences? Okay, there's a lady over there.
My name's Claire Bowman. I'm an architect, but I'm also a CIBSE member. So I have both registrations, and my success is that I get to read both of what you're both saying. And that's the key. It's the collaboration between the RIBA and CIBSE and BRE is the way forward. I think what is key, it was mentioned, was TM52 and TM46. if you have a team, an architect designing a school, they should be reading TM46 so they can understand what the engineers are saying. It's really valuable. It's that collaboration that I've found is key. The success of the post-occupancy evaluations we've done is we've got one at the moment at Putney High School where we're building a new building, but we're studying existing rooms at the same time. And the findings we've found have actually supported the new building. We have also there used BRE to do impact. So we have studied the building over its life because and so the whole team bought into that by using BS 5836. So we all bought into a British standard to support each consultant in the early stages, and that's proving the success of the building.
That's a great example. Thanks very much for sharing that.
Are you adjusting standard appointments to ensure that everybody's got enough in their scope of work to be able to carry this stuff out?
Well, the thing about it is we're lucky. Putney is Wandsworth Borough Council. It's an enlightened council. You have to get BREEAM Excellent. That set the benchmark of the design team. So essentially, we had a full design team from RIBA Stage 2. And then at that design team meeting, which I led and Lend-Lease led, we put down on the table a code of conduct. And that is how we were able to bring everything together. And it was a trial. We did it as a trial, as a team, as a trial, but it's been very successful, particularly for the well-being of staff. We've all enjoyed the project, and I think that's the other key, is that you actually get back to enjoying building again, and they're sustainable. Okay.
That sounds great. That's the process bar I showed in the plan of work, which is very small and unreadable. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Set up defined outcomes at the start, which are agnostic, maybe BREEAM, maybe other things. It might be BREEAM Excellent, might be other outcomes from Alex's list, but setting them up early enough in the process so that the design team appointments are set up in such a way that they can actually work together, collaborate, manage them, and deliver them throughout the process. But that sounds like the kind of case study waiting to happen now.
If we can ask the other speakers, actually, in terms of actually the ingredients of actually carrying out successful POE and actually feedback into the design process.
Well, what was good from that example, and so pleased that you mentioned that, there were some interesting things there. First, you're an architect interested in environmental engineering design. You're reading CIBSE publications. There's a lot of engineers that won't read architectural publications. So that integrated approach is fantastic. And then you also mentioned early on that people are getting together to agree code of conduct. I mean, so it sounds like it's very collaborative. So some of our research on post-occupancy outcomes that haven't gone so well, it's where there hasn't been that collaborative approach. There's been a procurement route that has meant that a designer takes it to a certain stage and has absolutely no role beyond perhaps stage 3 or 4, or sometimes people can be involved up to planning, establishing the vision, and then other people take it beyond planning, and then someone else is in charge of construction without that continuity. So I think there were some good examples in your case study of where it seems like there's that continuity, that integration, which I think the plan of work overlay shows very well about this continuity. I think it will stimulate, hopefully, discussions between consultants and the clients about, well, if we're going to set and define the objectives at stage 0 and 1, then how do we know that those aspects are going to be monitored at 5, 6, 7? You know, where's that ownership going to be? And hopefully there'll be more continued involvement and retention of designers. If you take design and build procurement, for example, there's sometimes even the designers don't have a monitoring role and might not be novated to the constructor.
So Alex, do you want to pick up on this in terms of your experience with delivering some fantastic, net zero and actually net positive buildings? I mean, what's your kind of feeling on this in terms of the ingredients of successful POE?
So I would agree that setting objectives at the outset is, if you don't do it, basically you're not going to get outcomes that you want. And a collaborative approach, again, essential. And what we've, at Beer Architects, do a lot is quite an extensive sort of interview and discussion process, which is not a kind of checkbox PQQ with contractors and other stakeholders, but basically to sort of a quite human conversation about, look, are you behind this? Because it doesn't matter how much paperwork you've got behind you and how many qualifications. If you're not excited by what we've put in this brief or what we're proposing to design and deliver, at some point, you're going to put your hands up and say, I can't be bothered. And we're going to get into an argument because we are bothered. And it's fantastic when you get design teams, whether it's consultants, whether it's constructors, clients, FM teams, whoever it is, and you get that click and everyone says, yes, we are committed to delivering this. And that's both the Passive House and also previously on Living Building Challenge projects, where that is absolutely priceless. And I think it's something that as an industry we often overlook, actually the human side of, you can have as much contract and a long-winded explanation and all written down and signed off, and in the end, you're going to be in 2 years' time standing on site arguing about whether something is airtight or not, or whether or not someone's commissioned something right. And you don't want to have the argument. What you want to do is turn up on site and said, we realize we installed it wrong, we've already fixed it.
So, great. And it's passion, enthusiasm. We've got another question at the back there.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the talks. Really, really interested and great to see this work going on the design side. I was interested in the example of the Edinburgh school disaster, which Ashley mentioned, and the need for overseeing on-site. And I'm wondering if the panel have good examples of where you've communicated examples of POE data, or there's been good examples of communicating the building performance targets to those people working on site to help them achieve the goals and minimise the performance gap.
Okay, so I'll open that to the panel. So, Ashley, do you want to go first with the Edinburgh schools?
Okay, well, I'll make an analogy in a commercial context where we were doing some repeat work with a commercial developer, and because I don't want to get into liability issues with the Scottish schools. Anyway, that independent review's done. But with a commercial client, we were employed to set the specification, and then it was design and build. And when we were doing some visits near handover, we noticed we were checking energy meters, and there wasn't really good calibration, and the meters weren't adding up. You look at the meter coming into the building, all the sub-meters were not adding up to the main incoming meter. And then we realized that the contractor was substituting some of the specified materials. So we had the discussion with the client to say, I think we should enhance the monitoring role. So really, I suppose the lesson from that example was an agreement with the client to enhance independent monitoring. So, and that means that the designers can walk around the site and have interaction with the contractor, and hopefully not just to be seen as a policeman, but have a dialogue, maybe by the designers being on site with the constructors. We might get feedback where they say, actually, what you specified is hard to get, is very expensive. That's the reason why we did that. And so I can see it as two ways with a greater monitoring engagement.
Alex?
I'd like to give an example. Slightly smaller projects with this particular contractor, but a contractor we're working with very successfully at the moment called Bowtie Construction. And they've done a number of things in structuring their business and how their teams operate on sites to make delivering passive house and low energy buildings more viable and more repeatable. And one of those is that they retain staff. So actually the core site team are employees of the contractor. They are not subs. And that team stays together job after job after job. So they build camaraderie. And that team is on the project for the whole time, start to finish. And there are key specialists from various areas. There is a groundwork sort of lead, there is a decoration lead, there's an electrical lead. And so if the person putting in the groundworks has over their shoulder the person doing the timber framing or the joinery saying, don't get that wrong, because I've got to build joinery off of that, that reinforces quality on site. They also put up in their site office sort of outcomes, essentially paperwork. So it doesn't just have plans of the building, they've also got what is passive house, why are we doing this? You know, a graph of global energy consumption. It's just there in the site office as kind of reading material day to day. And they also, whether or not they get projects where the client decides to put a kind of performance bonus to the contractor, they internally do that to their site team to say, if you deliver on schedule, under budget, etc., you see the sustainability outcomes, we'll actually give you a bonus. And they're now thinking of transitioning Bowtie over the next few years to worker-owned organization to further enhance that kind of beneficial feedback loop, which is very, very exciting to find contractors doing that.
Great. Ash?
You'd like to use an example of a kind of integrated approach, the kind of collaborative approach that helps to deliver sustainability outcomes alongside a whole host of other outcomes. White Collar Factory, which we recently finished on the Old Street roundabout, the environmental strategy and sustainability strategy is absolutely integral to the architectural aesthetic of the building. It's integral to the structure of the building. So the structure of this building is exposed. It is the architectural finish. The concrete soffits are there, but it's also the cooling. So the cooling is embedded in the concrete frame of the building. So the frame is holding the building up. It is the architectural finish. It is also the cooling mechanism. So in kind of having a kind of three-pronged oversight of that particular aspect of the building, it has to be right because it's doing all these different things. But we find as architects, we're there to look at finishes, and our oversight is on finishes. So if we embed all the kind of sustainability things into the finishes and the architecture of the building, then it's going to get better or more easily to be delivered because it's kind of integral to the building. We're not bolting things on afterwards. Slightly mangled those sentences, but I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thanks very much. Just add one, we've got time for one more question, but just add another example where I've heard, which is fantastic, the air tightness testing on site. A contractor actually makes it a bit competitive with the different teams. So you write up the air pressure test in terms of the first level, in terms of external facade, and then everybody else, the following trades, have got to try and not upset that figure. So, and actually it worked well in some schools up in the Midlands. So time for one question over here.
Yeah, hi. I'm Stephen Boyle. I'm from Zero Waste Scotland. We are the Scottish Government Circular Economy Agency, so you might get where I'm coming from this question. Sustainability is great, and building in use is fantastic, and I really appreciate everything you're doing here, but what about the principles of circular construction? Where are they within your guide? You've mentioned cradle to cradle once, and within your 7 tiers, you don't really mention materials, waste reduction, end of life, and design for deconstruction. Are you including that within your new sustainability guide?
So yes, absolutely. I am personally very passionate about end of life and cradle to cradle, hence I mentioned it. And it is in there. It's in the RIBA awards criteria now. You know, end of life, cradle to cradle, design for dismantling are all key terms that are sort of to bring out that in teams and flag it up. And we, in the sort of wider green grid you saw, the draft of, there is that stuff in there, and if you drill down deeper, yes, it is all there. That sort of bullseye metrics is a starting point, and a kind of what's easily accessible and what's easily quantifiable at present. And it's one of the things we're going through in the consultation and working out what information we can ask for to make it not non-negotiable, but really straightforward, normal best practice. Embodied energy is a good example of actually how much detail do we ask for, because at a certain point, if we ask for every nut, screw, bolt, light fitting, the quality of data we have for setting those metrics and assessing them starts to kind of diminish. Whereas if we ask for less information, but we stick to the really good stuff that we have good data for, we may actually have better quantifiable data back on buildings. So as it is possible to get more metrics, we want to build out this set of metrics as we go. But it's in there in the wider criteria. It's also, I think, Craig, it's in the sort of plan of work.
Yeah, so there is a bar in the plan of work, life cycle analysis. So Simon Sturgis was Gary's predecessor as a chair of the Sustainable Futures Group, and has set out some life cycle analysis focusing on embodied energy points that run through that plan of work, which we expand into circular economy and design for dismantling. Absolutely in there. But
Okay, so yeah, apologies, but I think that in terms of maybe we focus on some operational outcomes, but yeah, just as I reinforce this, that whole life carbon approach is embedded in what we're doing, embodied energy and end of use. But the circular economy is underpinned everything we do here. But so anyway, examples. You come and speak to us afterwards. We're keen to kind of embed that within what we're trying to do. I think that kind of sort of rounds it up. So I hope you enjoyed this morning. Have a great time for the rest of the 3 days. But any questions, come and speak to us. Thanks very much.